Hey everybody, welcome to the Vegas Bad Boys and the DeFalco Files with the owner and creator of FSW, the future stars of wrestling here in Las Vegas, Mr. Joe DeFalco. Matt Michaels here, along with our special guest, and thank you very much for coming on for this very important talk before it happens here on Sunday for the Beynefit for Bey show. I got to say, Karrion Kross, WWE superstar, FSW legend, and one of the most caring and wonderful people that has ever been in this industry. Thank you for joining us, man.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Joe, it was a weird time, I think, probably for all of us when we heard about Chris's injury, right? We all got him from different sources. We all got different people telling us this, that, or the other. And there's a lot of emotions. When everything settled down, Joe, and you talked to Kevin, how did things come across in terms of this idea coming about to do something special for Chris?
Well, initially, because of the way WWE has started to change their philosophies on things, we had literally been talking with Kevin, and he had hit me up and said there might be a possibility about him coming back to FSW. And then he got word that I was trying to put together the idea of a Chris Bey Beynefit show. And that's where it all went. It was like, this is what I need to get done. And he, thankfully, because they still took a long time, but he was front and center, like pushing for this to happen. And what we thought initially was going to be, hey, let's do this nice show for Chris at the FSW arena. We'll have a couple hundred people there. You know, probably we'll get like some of the TNA guys that he's good friends with, Ace Austin and the Rascals, who of course are going to be there, and maybe a couple others, and we'll have a really good show. And Chris at that point was just starting to be able to like move his lower extremities. Like initially I talked with Kevin, we were going to do it at the end of January, and it was like there was even like no thought of Chris even being there. So thankfully WWE took a lot longer than we thought, and then the floodgates just opened. And it was like, even though it took a while to announce Kevin, it was pretty much a done deal. It was just getting through their paperwork and doing all the other stuff. And then became the philosophy of, you know, who Kevin was going to wrestle. And then all of a sudden we got the AEW guys reached out. And all of a sudden this has become the biggest independent wrestling show that's, I guarantee there's not going to be a bigger one happen the rest of this year.
Yeah, Kevin, I mean, what are your thoughts about that? And how did it go through your mind to, because Chris is, you can't not smile when you think of Chris Bey, and we all know, any one of us who've ever been inside a ring know what we're doing when we take that risk of going in there. So it's like a brotherhood. And when you see a fallen brother who's almost like a little brother to you, it's got to hit home hard, man.
Yeah, I was crushed. I was on a flight when I got the news. Now that Chris is doing better, because I haven't even told him this. I was on a flight when I got the news, and I had like a full-blown panic attack on the airplane. And I don't have panic attacks.
Wow.
Because it's just like, especially him, like, we've all known him, like, for those of us that know him, that kid is bulletproof. Like, the stuff you're seeing him, like, you've all been seeing him do in the best parts of his career, he was doing that on almost, like, day one. Like, he just wanted to learn something. He'd see something, and he wanted to learn it, and he would learn how to do it. And just the way he takes after his body, the way he takes care of himself, the way he trains for things, his mentality, he would be like the last person on earth I would ever think something like this would happen to. So it struck like so many negative chords when I heard about it. And I was just, even just thinking about it, I get lost in like a really bad way. I'm so glad that he's ahead of it now. I know he's going to stay ahead of it. And I just tried to think of ways that I could try to help. And, it's weird, right? Like, I don't know, maybe I'm in my head too much about stuff like this, but I always see a lot of people doing charity stuff and grieving publicly. And sometimes, like, I know some of these people, and I know how they actually feel about the subjects they're doing charity for and grieving
Right.
about, and it's not exactly authentic. And sometimes I'm involved with a lot of charities. I don't really talk about them because I'm not doing it for, some sort of praise or something. My family's always been involved with charities, like since I was a little kid. So that's part of our in-house family culture. So I was already apprehensive to even mention anything about Chris, because anytime something happens to somebody, there's always a million people online that like almost want to draw attention to themselves. So I remained pretty quiet about all this for quite some time until I was really certain I could like really, really help. And, aside from the GoFundMe and just staying in touch with him and going to visit him and making sure his spirits were strong. I just kind of like Joe was really the only person and my wife and close friends of mine that I was really talking to about any of this. And once I got the green light to know I could be a part of the show and kind of bring awareness to the event that Joe was putting together, I was like, okay, now I'll talk a little bit about this because I can use the attention to bring it to ticket sales or viewership buys on Triller. But I was mortified like anybody else, and I'm just glad that, like I said, that Chris is coming through on the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And already, some chat going on here. This is such a spectacular event that's happening for such an amazing cause, amazing person. I can't express enough how cool this is from Nicholas, which is, just kind of everyone's thoughts and buzz and feeling about it. Now, Joe, I mean, it's a ton of work. We've talked over the years about what it goes into putting together shows, but the coordination of making this happen, one of the things that I think we can't say enough of is the fact that even this week it was put out there that guys like CM Punk, you said it, Rey Mysterio, Dominic, everyone who knows about Chris wants to be a part of this, even if they can't. And putting a show like this together with, everyone reaching out to you and wanting to be a part of this. I mean, we joke, but at the same time, how hard was it to just kind of get everything together? And you're still, looking at putting the actual card together because we've got 6 matches so far. But man, I mean, there's so much talent here, 9-hour WrestleMania show almost with everyone participating. It's crazy.
Yeah, Chris is. I was talking to him yesterday, and he's so worried of like, oh man, this show's gonna go long, and it's like, Chris, nobody's leaving before you come out. It's like if it goes 3 hours and 20 minutes, don't worry. He's like so panicky. He's like, oh yeah, let's only do this 8 matches, and we'll do Battle Royal. We don't need to do a 9th, and we got this going on. And I just got informed TJP, I guess he's flying in very late from New Japan. So he is now not going to be on the show.
Okay.
But as we said, it's a who's who of the business. Over the last couple of weeks, Mikey just had to redo the flyer because we got Hammerstone, we got Ricochet, and we had gotten TJP. And it's just reaching out. The easiest part was getting the people to be on the show because most of them reached out to me because people were like, hey, what about this guy? And what about that guy? And it's like, we're doing a benefit show for Chris Bey. I am not going to call somebody up and say, hey, do you want to work a show that you're not going to be paid on? Right. And now you're also putting somebody in a predicament of like, well, now I'm going to look bad. And then and they may do it, but they really don't want to do it. And that's not what we want. We want people who want to be there. Like I reached out, Kevin will tell you, John Morrison, one of the nicest people in the world. So we've talked many times over the years. I used to joke about Morrison wouldn't put over Kenny King. He wouldn't put over Shelton Benjamin at the Mecca. Kevin's like, well, what do you think about John? I go, I love John, but he's not putting anybody over, Kevin. And he's like, he's putting me over. He tapped out right in the middle of the ring. And, and John loved working with Bey. And I know John and Kevin and a lot of people would put in Brian Cage when they were talking about maybe Chris going to TNA. So I did reach out to some people, but I reached out to the people that I know already had a relationship with him. So when I reached out to Morrison, I didn't really reach out to Cage other than normally talking to him, because it's like, I'm not sure Brian's likes working for free. You know what I mean? So it's like not me to, but he wasn't really aware of the show. So I'm like, hey, we're doing the show. Morrison. I said, Kross is going to be there, blah, blah. He's like, oh, count me in. And Melissa will be there too. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. And then the only one I said, and which I've said it before, was I hit up Sanjay Dutt, who's been fantastic, one of the best people. And I said, hey, do me a favor. He's like, oh, yeah, you need to be getting Kross with Cage and Morrison. I'm like, no, I talk to them all the time. I said the only person was Strickland, who I kind of lost contact with, so I didn't really want to reach out to him, but, let's see. The next day, Strickland, without even talking to Sanjay, happened to hit me up and said, hey, I want to be a part of this show. And then it just snowballed, and it was just like, hey, RBD says he wants to make an appearance. Okay. I'm going to, all these guys, I was talking on the phone with Rey Mysterio. He wanted to be here, some wanted to wrestle. I misspoke the other day when I talked about Punk. He had talked to Chris. So it was more about, as you saw, reaching out on Monday Night Raw. And a lot of these guys are just, rooting for Chris, and if they can help in any way. And it's like, if we reached out to people, I'm sure there's 50 other people who would have did the show. So, like I said, AEW, WWE, TNA, New Japan, all these companies, they could have put the kibosh if they really wanted to, and they chose not to. Not that they wouldn't look like shit if they did it, but the fact of the matter is, it's like, we got a show from top to bottom that's going to be fantastic. Guys that aren't signed anymore reach out, like a Rhino, and it's like, wow. Like, you look at that, you got legends, you got rising stars, it's going to be such a good time. We even got, like I said, Rick Knox is our referee. I'm pretty sure I might have to make Rick Knox referee a WWE guy. That would be kind of fun.
Originally a Lucha Underground guy.
There you go. See, I said it's like a combination Lucha Underground, IWF Mecca reunion with all those guys, because like a Ricochet, who I used in 2014. Little known fact, the very last IWF show where we crowned Cage over Drew McIntyre as the champion, Mr. Kross wrestled in the pre-show match against exciting Evan Daniels.
Yes, I did. We had Don Fry in the audience for that too. I remember that.
He was at the meet and greet. Don Fry was there. The Young Bucks wrestled Shane Strickland and Trevor Lee.
Yep.
And Tommaso Ciampa was there. And Chris Hero was there. And then now Apollo Crews. That was a true who's who of wrestling in Phoenix.
Right. And now it's becoming a who's who here this Sunday for this show for Chris. Again, you can catch it on Triller TV, but you can also get tickets for the show here at the Silverton. We've also got a banner going here. The Beynefit for Bey donations through Nevada State Bank account. And we got the bank account up there. Also the Venmo, Zelle, and Cash App. So it's something that Joe put together and make life much easier for donations and legal purposes is the best way to put it.
Yeah, and then we got the trading card, that the Raw Deal Indie card. Nice $15 donation gets you the card. We got the 11x17 poster. Some people are pretty funny. Hey, can you get all the guys to sign it for me? It's like, yeah, give me like $500. Like, how much that's worth? Go to WrestleCon and get that signed. It'll cost you $2,000.
Right.
And I don't have anything to do that day, so let me run around and get everybody to sign all the posters, because not worried about the show or anything.
Also, it's a benefit. You know what I mean? It's like somebody asking for comps. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to charge. Not that I had to charge him, but Dave Mazzani, Leon Hader, and they didn't ask for tickets, obviously. They're like, hey, we want, is Venmo good? How much is it? And it was like, and there was a couple other people, the radio guy, like, oh, I'm going to do a donation. It's like, you got to buy the tickets. I'm not comping anybody on this.
Yeah. And, this sums it up. What a great time to be a wrestling fan, because I think not only is it a great time to be a wrestling fan, but, this is the time when the wrestling community comes together more than anything, that we don't get that chance to, see each other and, be able to take care of each other on a regular basis, and I think this, Kevin, is one of the more important things, is that not only do you do this for Chris, but you guys kind of get to be in that same locker room together and have that energy about why you're there, which is a totally different thing than business as usual, which is amazing, man.
Yeah, I was really happy to see how many people contacted Joe to do this show that I know are close with Chris, because it's like we said, no one's getting paid to do this. And, Chris said it in the Van Vliet interview that just dropped. Everything we do is dangerous. Things go so smooth in general on a regular basis when people are watching wrestling.
Right.
They forget the level of danger that we're always in. And anything can happen to anybody at any time. And that's part of something that we accept when we get into the ring. That alone taught me on day one, when I showed up at Joe's school, that I'm always going to have respect for anybody who's going to take a shot at stepping through the ropes, because literally anything could happen. It could happen on that spot they did. It could happen on an Irish whip. Like, it could happen on things you wouldn't even imagine, hitting the buckle. I mean, literally anywhere, anytime, any place. And to see people are willing to show up that are made people in the business right now. Yeah. Mothers and fathers, they have kids, they have mortgages, they're on TV. They're showing up, and, for the love of the game and for the love they have for Chris, are going to go out there and do this for free with everything they have going on in their lives. It made me really, really happy to see who showed up and was willing to put that on the line, because, it's a competitive business. It's a competitive industry. But at the end of the day, you have to understand, at a certain point, among us, all we have is each other. So you may be competing for a spot, but I don't think you should ever lose sight that, no matter how competitive you are, we're human beings together. And we do this together. Without each other, we can't do this for the people that are showing up. And looking at the card that Joe's made public and knowing who's going to be on the show, I was just happy to see who showed up for this, because to me, these people get it. These people get it. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people don't. And that's not me throwing any shade at anybody who's not on the show at all. I'm just saying I'm very happy with who's showing up. I really am.
Yeah, and as Tom, and Tom's been involved in FSW, the variety of superstar talent who will be coming alongside some of FSW's current star talent is going to make for an incredible showcase from start to finish. And I think that's something too that we can't overlook. And speaking of current talent, this puts it out there. Joe, a battle royal for Bey would be fun to see down the line. The winner gets a shot at the Mecca Championship. Ooh,
well, there is a battle royal, and it's going to be between 20 and 30 people. Sin Bodie and AJ Francis will be two of the names already that'll be in there, plus a lot of the FSW talent that one match we haven't announced because we're still finalizing their opponents, but we got a crazy little 6-man tag that is going to be the team of Jay Vidal, the 17-year-old Bodie Young Prodigy. They will be teaming up with Rhino in a 6-man tag.
Just the image of Bodie and Rhino standing side by side, yes. Man.
And I'll tell you the two of the opponents. Sam Adonis had to drop out because he had a AAA taping that night, into that Saturday night. So right now, New Japan's Alex Zane and Arya Davari are two of the opponents. And now we're looking at maybe an FSW guy or maybe, you know, somebody on late notice who's going to make it out here. But we're waiting for the third. That's why there's no flyer out on that match. And then obviously we have a women's match that is going to be spotlighted also. And we're still finalizing the card, wink, wink. And hopefully we get some information soon. So, you know, we got the poster ready, Kevin, you know, one with, one without. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I'll have info for you right after this. I promise.
Hey, you know, but you know, again, that's one of the things we got to say with the WWID program, and you know, you're dealing with Gabe Sapolsky, and dealing with the front office with this. That's one of the things that I don't think people quite understand. You know, going back to UPW days, Rick dealt with the office all the time, and the WWE can be very good at, you know, working with people, and I think they get a bad rep, and that's something that, you know, we see that, you know, sometimes it takes patience, but at the same time they aren't this evil empire that doesn't want all this together. You know, there are people who care about stuff, and I think it's great to see.
Well, I'm hoping Brett Lauderdale, I talked to him a little bit. GCW is in LA the night before. So Brett's trying to figure out a way that he can get Joey Janela to come in and attack Kevin. So I don't know.
I would love that.
And you know, this sums it up really nicely too. We're going to WWE World instead, going to pass Sunday so we can help Bey and see Kross. And Kevin, you're getting some love, of course. Brandy, yes, my champ returns home. So
she was so eagerly awaiting. I'm like, oh, we got a big announcement coming soon. And it was like, it was the worst kept secret on the FSW fan page, because everybody knew, but I just couldn't say the name. So everybody was like, they just wanted to hear the name. Like, to know. It's like, you know, when you know something, but you need to really hear it to affirm it. And that's how it was. So,
of course. Awesome to see Brandy and Tom Crawford on there. I recognize those names obviously right away. So, oh geez.
Yeah, and
Tom's now a part-time referee, and he will be the ring bell guy. So, you know, if you want to destroy him, he'll be more than happy. He might even donate like $100 for you to kill him. So.
And another familiar face for you, Chief, chiming in. Vegas fans are lucky to have this show for Chris. Welcome home, champ. Joe, what a promoter you are. Thank you. Joe gets love.
About time. Christ.
And look at this. First time being here. Just got my ticket yesterday. Can't wait to be there Sunday. Can't wait to have you, Phantasm Wolves. Looking forward to this. One of things I'm looking forward to most, I'm a little biased here, is Karrion Kross versus Hammerstone. You know what? Vegas Bad Boys sponsoring this match.
Yes, they're making the donation. You know, it was funny because I was talking to Kevin the day of, and we were talking names, and Rhino was a potential name. But Rhino's a very well-liked guy, too. So, and it's like, and, you know, all these guys are doing it. And it was like, we had reached out and he had talked to Matt Cardona, because that's always a match. Hopefully down the line, maybe we would see. That's a match we were talking about. When Kevin came back the first time and wrestled Jacob Fatu, I had an offer on the, you know, to run a show at the Showboat in Atlantic City, to a friend of mine who has a 70s and 80s nightclub called Boogie Nights at the Tropicana. So he's had it there for like 20 years, and he has different ones all over the place. And he was very friendly and doing some work with the Showboat. And he put us in touch. And this was like probably late 2021. The offer was on the table, but it was just impossible to make work, because trying to get all these FSW guys, buying a flight to Philly was like $500 each. And it was like, there was no way we could do it unless we had what we thought would be a monster main event. And being with the GCW influence that we worked with them that was the only match that I thought we can do to headline a card was Kevin against Cardona. So, but if you look at the history of FSW, there was probably 4 champions in a row that have become the biggest deal. Obviously, LA Knight, but the 3 most influential champions in FSW history were Kevin, Bey, and Hammerstone. So to have Kevin wrestle Hammerstone in honor for a Chris Bey show, I think is the biggest main event that we can do as FSW as a company. You know, maybe obviously to the average fan, seeing Kross wrestle like a Strickland, which obviously wouldn't happen, might be a bigger deal to them or whatever. But for the hardcore people who've been with us for a long time, this is a match that really got a lot of love. And, you know, it's great to see Hammerstone has been, you know, healed because he was banged up. So we didn't know if he was even going to be available. And it took a little longer for him to get well. But now he's wrestling. He's like, count me in. And it was like literally 3 hours after I got off the phone with Kevin saying to him, you know, I think that really the best match would be you and Hammerstone. And then, you know, as my kid would say, it manifested. And we got it to happen. So, you know, matches on the show, people getting to work, guys who they want to work. That's another thing that we had to do. So it's like, hey, Brian Cage, in my mind, man, him and Rich Swann would probably kill it. So I go, hey, Brian, you know, what are you thinking match-wise? He's like, well, you know, I really think me and Swann would have a great match. And I'm like, sold. Yeah. And it's like all these other people. And now Danny Limelight gets to work with some good people and that are from the bigger companies that he hasn't had a chance. And Frankie Kazarian's in that match. Or, you know, maybe Bodie doing a spot on Rhino's shoulders in a 6-man tag. It's like, not only is it, everybody needs to know this is a wrestling show. Everything we're doing it for Chris, but it's a wrestling show. This isn't going to be, hey, everybody's going to mail it in. People are working who they want to work with, have fun, and have great matches. You know, there's a reason the people that are on this show are so talented is they're better than most people because their desire is to be the best. And on a show like this, where there's a lot of people who think they're the best, they're going to want to go out there and they wanted people to say, you know what the best match of the Bey show was? These guys want to hear their name being out there. So I don't see anybody mailing it in and just say, hey, I was just here for Chris. But no, this is going to be so much fun. And like I said, my juices flow because there's so many times dealing with the delusional kids and the students who all think they're so good and all the shit that they want to do and take keys and think it's okay to make them. And like, man, what level do you think you're at? Like, it's mind boggling to me, some of these kids, but then you always see the other ones that help you say, you know what, maybe leaving the business right now ain't the best time. You know, there's good things that are happening. A show like this is going to get me motivated for a long time. You know, I've been seeing Chris a lot because he's in every Monday and Tuesday normally helping train Brittany Brooks. Here's a guy who broke his neck and he still has the passion of trying to help somebody get better. And it's not only his girl, it's 4 other people that are in there helping train with him. And he's critiquing and he's saying, hey, you need to work on this. And he's looking at film and watching shows. And it's like, he's another agent that I now have to help because that's all he wants to do. So it's like giving back to him was such an easy decision because he's given so much back to us.
Yeah. And you know, it's the love of wrestling that goes way back. And Kevin, you just posted something. This little treat of ticket stub, and you back at an event back in 1995, and that idea of seeing Diesel do the jackknife power bomb. And then I thought about it, and I in my room I got a picture of myself in a Hulkamania shirt as a 9-year-old kid. And it's that same idea. And it's like, is that something that I think that at times when you grow in the business, you kind of get jaded away from a little bit. And then you got to find that thing that sparks that back of, hey, man, that's right, man. I'm a true fan of this. And I've been a fan of this since, my youngest memories. Because sometimes we can get lost in, the traveling, the business, the making money, all that stuff. And then it just comes down to that little thing. You see something, a clip on YouTube that you're like, oh yeah, man. Oh, right. I remember that event when I was like 10, man. That was amazing. Is that something that just, is that what captures you still today? Is that little kid in you going, hey man, remember us?
Absolutely. And I joke with some of the boys, like, I'm still like, the professional goes out there and I perform, but there's still that kid in me that's sitting in the audience every time there's a WWE show, and I know what I'm supposed to be showing that kid. And sometimes I'm not allowed to show the fan what I know they want to see out of me, but I'm willing to go through everything to get to that one particular show where I can give them exactly what they want to see out of me. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I even at the highest level with WWE, I never got involved with this because I was like, hey, this is like a really easy way to make a lot of money. Like uh, I mean, if my life revolved around making money, I would still be like a bodyguard for celebrities. I would just still be traveling just as much or maybe even more, and I'd probably virtually have to do nothing. It's not about the money. I fell in love with this since I was a little kid, and just the nature of the entire thing, being able to create moments for people that they will remember for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I decided I wanted my occupational philosophy to be, and that's what I wanted to pursue. And there's nothing easy about any of this when you want to be great, because if you want to be great, you have to constantly adapt, and your life revolves around this 24/7. It's not about just showing up to an event and hitting a few high spots. It's what you eat, how you sleep, what you're watching, what you're thinking about, having, personal and professional composure when things don't go right. It's patience. It is a lifestyle that you have to acquire and learn how to master, which may take your entire life to master in order to do this at the highest level. And I'll always be a fan of this, and I'll always want to do it, even when I don't anymore.
And this is great. The passion is showing for the love of wrestling. This is so awesome. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I'll give a quick, there's always the Bey story that I tell, and there's always the Kross story that I tell. It's easy to tell those stories to prospective new students because they know who these people are. And, not really Cepha, because he kind of had a little easier route into the business and things. But I always tell the first day, like, I literally do remember the first day Kevin walked in. And if I'm not mistaken, he had a Chaparral sweatshirt on. So I thought he was this local guy. I'm like, oh, you go to Chaparral? And he's like, no, blah, blah, blah. But the story that he told me was, I think he was about 28, 29 years old. And he says, I want to tell you something. He's like, I do a lot of jujitsu and I do these different things. He goes, but when I go home, the one thing I'm always finding myself doing is going on YouTube and watching UWFI and a lot of wrestling stuff. And he says, you know what? Before I get too old, I want to at least try this because this is what I really love. Okay. And it was like, all right, well, here's a guy. He's about 6'3", 200. I've had a lot of guys like Kevin that I would be like, oh, there's my next champ. And then they would be there a week, 2 weeks. And you'd be like, a guy like Spider would be better than them. Who was a guy who had Asperger's, who had a hard time. And then once he got there, he'll click. By the way, Spider's back, so he'll be there on Sunday. So,
Good.
But so with Kevin, we brought him along way different than Chris Bey. Chris Bey got a match in 3 or 4 months, and he got destroyed by like Funny Bone or something, I believe, in like 2 minutes, and he just got murdered. But Kevin, I was doing something with Rocky, and I was smart enough to put Kevin on my side. So Kevin was my personal assistant. And right around that time, so it had to be, I believe, 2014, because I got stents put in. And I got stents put in on a Monday. I got released on a Friday, and we had a show Friday night. So my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I got to go to the show tonight. It's like, you just got out of the hospital 3 hours ago. I'm like, it's good. I won't do anything. And at that point, he's like, you know what? I'm going to stay out of the ring. I'm just going to let Kevin handle the business. I don't need to even get in the ring, but I have to be there. Kevin, walked in and was like, we're good. I don't need to do anything anymore. He was able to, fly on his own, but we protected him for a long time, put him in. I think he worked with like Tito and Che when it was Team Joe against Team Rocky. Of course, we murdered them, and then, everything took off. So, there's always those guys that I have nothing but love for. And it was like, when Kevin put out that video, a couple last month or so about the thing, those were some of the nicest things I've ever heard about myself. And it's like, it's great to see that there are people who do appreciate you in what you do. And, because a lot of the ones are like, well, yeah, you really like you use Kevin. Like, okay, like the day Kevin walked in, we knew he was going to go to WWE. And that's why I treated him better than you, not because you just suck and he's way better than you. Because everybody has to have a reason for why they didn't get there. And it was the hard work. Like I always say about the same people, the Lacey's, the Kevins, the Hammerstones, the Beys. As great as it was for the guys like that to become my champion, that was their stepping stone. The other great Kevin story was he shows up on Monday Night Raw. He probably had, 6 months in the business, maybe?
Yeah.
Tyson Tyler was the one who got you the tryout. Was that one? Or
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So Kevin gets on Monday Night Raw, doesn't do anything. Darren Young, whatever happens, he gets out, gets thrown out. And Kevin is the heel at the time, the hated heel. And he comes out, and everybody's cheering him like unbelievable. It's like, what the fuck? So Kevin basically threatens to lock all the doors in the arena and beat the shit out of every single fan in the building, and they're roaring with enthusiasm. And it's like, that's when the Paulie Covert thing came over, and Paulie had to be the heel commissioner because there was nothing we were going to. It was like, it doesn't matter what Kevin does, unless he actually does, chop somebody's arm off in the ring. I don't think people are going to not cheer him. And at that point, sky's the limit.
And before we get to that thought, I would just love this. Andrew says, I can't wait for Sunday. I'm bringing my whole family, my 10-year-old daughter and my 2 4-year-old sons. It's my son's first wrestling show. I can't wait to see if they enjoy it.
Well, we have a kids class every Saturday. That's a good way to start. 17-year-old Bodie Young Prodigy started our kids class at 9 years old. So a little plug for that. Oh, look at that. Look at that husky. He's
going to start howling and crying if I don't pick him up. So
no, I get you. My dog's like that.
Yeah.
My dog's blind, so he hears another voice. And usually he can't stop either, humping his little baby or whining that he can't see who's here.
Oh.
Can we say that in a WWE environment, man? You gotta watch that, Joe.
Yeah, they're on Netflix. You can hear what they say now that doesn't get edited. So it's like, wow.
And a shout out to the kids class. Nicholas says kids class is amazing. And that's something too, Kevin, you saw Chris, start when he came in fresh off the bus. And you've seen a lot of these guys come through the FSW school. And that's one of the things that I was most impressed about when I first got to know FSW is coming from a UPW background and knowing, Tom Howard was my trainer, and then sitting in and watching a class and going, wait a minute, Zoe, who trained you? And she's like, oh, Tom Howard. I'm like, oh, all right. I identified, and you can see the influences and the teachings of Sin and Kenny, and and just everyone who contributes. I mean, is that something that a lot of people just don't realize, that that program that you went through, that training, is something that is just so valuable and teaches you those right tools that you need to become successful and reach that next level.
Well, I personally feel like I got very lucky with going to the FSW school because I had people from different eras that I could train from and train under.
Yeah.
Like, to give you an example, everybody's favorite, Disco Inferno. I say that sarcastically for anyone not catching on. I love Disco, but I know him and I know he's a ball breaker and likes to tease people. Some people actually think he's the real life Antichrist. They don't understand his sense of humor. It's very dry. But to give you an example, Disco worked on TV and WCW, and he produced and agented and he wrote and stuff like that. And Disco is not going to teach you or show you any high spots in New Japan, but to the shock of some people, he doesn't think negatively over New Japan. So when I would have discussions with him about my development as a performer, I could talk to him about any sort of company during any sort of time period, and he would help me find ways to translate things that I liked that maybe he didn't care for to applying in a modern television format. I could go
Yeah.
to Mike Modest, who's from pretty, I
Yeah.
would say, a very different era. You know what I mean? He worked in many different places. He worked in Japan, and I felt like Mike had a really good grasp on a sort of mid-south type storytelling, psychology, and just understanding how to stay on task. Like, I learned a lot from Mike Modest in terms of, if things go off the rails, like pre-planned spots and stuff, how you don't need to call a single thing and you can take control of a match. And God forbid you're in the ring with somebody who's hurt, you can throw the entire match out the window on that second with as much time left, and be able to get everybody out of there very safely. I learned things like that from him. And then, I had Remy Marcel and Jack Manley, who had trained in the New Japan dojo, and they were more of a modern style, modern psychology. I learned a lot from them. Sin was there, Kenny was there. I learned different things from them in terms of character work, or again, translating sort of a hybrid lucha style, which is obviously very popular in the modern era of wrestling. It's a mix of British chain and power wrestling, Western style, and lucha. I mean, I could go on and on. And Joe was really good about getting people in there for seminars. So people who were wrestling in Ring of
Yeah.
Honor or former WWE guys, like, I just realized very quickly that wrestling was going to be, for me, what I made it. And I had to make a conscious decision what sort of performer I wanted to develop into. But in the process of that, I shouldn't exclude information because I wasn't perhaps going to use it. Like, I'll give you an example, working lucha. Um, I think it would look very strange if I did lucha in the ring, just for my character presentation and the way I work. And I'm 265 now. When I first started, I was 230. The lucha would probably look a lot better if I was 230. However, there's basing in lucha professional wrestling, being able to understand where to disperse your weight and how to carry somebody through a movement safely,
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's also part of lucha. Like, if I had anyone who was lucha that was coming into the school, that's exactly what I'd be doing. I'd be standing right in the middle of the ring, and I would catch every single person coming off the top, coming off the ropes. I've literally never missed, knock on wood, God forbid, I've never missed anybody on a dive doing this 11 years, because I said to myself in my mind, if I'm not going to catch this person off the top rope or going through the ropes on the outside of the ring, I have no business being in here. Like,
Great.
again, not to throw shade at anybody who's ever not been there, but that was a pressure that I put on myself. It was life and death. This guy or girl is going 11 feet out of the air or charging through the ropes, and they're depending on you to be there. It's literally that serious.
Yeah.
However they land into you is how they land into you, but do your best to catch them safely. So that was the environment that I was in at the school. And, not everybody, I say I was lucky because not, if you live in, I don't know, Oregon, I don't know how many former WWE stars are there that have a proper facility. You may have to be getting trained by someone in the indies, and you wouldn't know any better whether or not they should be training or not. They have no idea how to work TV or cameras. And that's a whole other world that never even occurred to people. You can go out there and learn how to wrestle, but learning how to work television, so you know where your cameras are and you have an idea of where the truck is going to be on the cuts. For me personally, when I'm out there in the ring in WWE, my mind is also in the truck. I know that sounds crazy, but I know in my mind how long a camera shot's going to be held before they transition. So I know if I want them to catch something, I'm working towards those cameras. Some people have a different philosophy of like, well, they'll just shoot me, I'll go wherever I want. I don't personally work that way. I'm working towards the cameras I know that are going to pick me up, and I know when they're switching and changing. So that was what I wanted to learn before I even went to WWE. And I remember Joe actually told me this. I don't know if you remember this, but I asked him frequently. I said, like, I would check in with him every 3 to 6 months approximately, and I would just ask him what he wants me to work on next, because it's a school and it's a show, and I really didn't feel like I had any sort of business really asking for more. And I saw how that went when other guys did that. It was disastrous. Like, it was this like false sense of entitlement. And so I knew that other people had to critique my work, and I had to be open to that. I couldn't be sensitive about it. And he would always tell me what to work on. And I just really, one of the things he said to me was like, before you go to WWE, you need to feel like if they ask you to do literally anything, you should be able to confidently do it. So if they on the spot tell you to cut a 60-second promo on Cabbage, you need to be able to do that. Or if they ask you, not likely, but if they ask you to work an Iron Man match, are you going to be able to do that? Are you going to be able to just get in the ring on the fly and be able to do that? Or a 60-second or a 30? Are you going to be able to put your ego aside and get squashed? If you're not going to be able to do that, I wouldn't suggest going and getting a job. Like, all these things are scenarios, but you should have all of this in practice, and you should be able to confidently be able to step into those positions. And that was kind of how I just approached my training. It was around things like that.
Yeah, you talking about that right now just made me remember, which I remember I was probably more irritated than you when Jeff Jarrett came in. We did the Global Force, and they used Kevin, and he ended up wrestling Bobby Roode. It's like, oh, fucking awesome. And it was like, so they cut his comeback out of the match. And he basically just got the shit beat out of him the whole time. It was like, what the fuck? I was probably more irritated about that than him.
Yeah, that also killed the local attendance too. People were really pissed about that. The following Global Force show, like, I want to say maybe half or even more than half the audience was gone. And, I was just happy to be there and trying to prove to people that I had something. So I didn't say anything. I didn't think it was my place, and I didn't think it would be very well received. But that really pissed off the local crowd so much that they didn't show up to the next one, because their Vegas audience on the Indies is very smartened up. Like,
yeah,
that's,
when you first came in, same thing with Chris Bey. It was like people who didn't know who any of these people are, man, they'd go to Sam's Town. And I remember Chris got a hero's welcome. I remember Hammerstone got a hero's welcome. Kross gets a hero's welcome. I was doing the Best of Bey a couple of weeks ago, so I was putting together some of the matches, and obviously your match with Chris was there. But I just got to put over, I watched the thing when Austin Aries came out and stuff. That was some fantastic mic work. I got to say, shout out to Austin Aries. That was such a great promo with you and him, and then Frank Mir showed up at the end. And it's like, wow, those are some pretty big deal things that happened, in our company over the years.
Yeah, I really feel like I said, not to beat a dead horse, but I just feel like I was very, very lucky, like completely serendipitously, to have landed in Vegas and found that school with the people traveling through that place and those shows. Other people are not as fortunate. And it put me in a position where I feel like I had the right mentality and perspective on how to grow as a performer. Because some people, if they don't have those people around them, they don't know any better. It's not that they're stuck up or pretentious, or it's not any of that. That's all they knew, because that was their introduction. And then they spin themselves out of the business because they get angry, because they'll hit a wall and they won't know that they need to adapt, or that certain fundamentals were missing out of their initial education, and they get jaded and they leave. I feel like I was just very, very lucky. Chris Masters, by the way, we got to shout him out. He was another guy who did seminars and work with Joe all the time. What a wonderful person to run into.
Yes, I always loved Chris.
When I was getting started,
Lance Hoyt too.
Another guy, yeah. They were so good to everybody that were super green and just getting started. They were so informative, so patient too. They didn't look down on anybody. They would stop and help anybody with literally anything. And they were very, very good to me when I was just getting started, I got to say.
Here was a funny one. I remember I was talking to Chris. I think I had to pick him up at the airport, do him a favor, because he was trying out for the Circus du Soleil that Ryan or whatever his name is. He ended up getting the gig, Mason Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And they were bringing them all in. And I was talking to him, and I remember saying something, and it was like about you. And it was like, oh, yeah, Kross is running the class. He's like, you have him running your class? I'm like, oh, no, he runs the promo class. He's like, oh, yeah, he's good for that one. Like, because he knew he was so great. He was like, what do you have him running your class for?
Of course.
But when he heard it was that. So, yeah, Chris Masters, Lance Hoyt. You know, I saw Lance last week, man. Lance is awesome. So, and it was like, but those were the guys we would bring in. And most people didn't know Lance, but because of the IWF stuff, that's how I knew Lance, through Shelton Benjamin. And I was not a fan. I even told Lance the other day, I'm like, you know, when we brought you in, I was like, who the fuck's this guy? It was like, he was that guitar playing dude from TNA. Who cared? And Shelton Benjamin's like, oh, he'll fly himself in. He'll work for this. It's like, yeah, whatever. And then it was like, I was going to have him work Cage because they were friends. And then they moved him to wrestle Matt Hardy. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. But I also knew he was getting some love from New Japan at the time with Harry. And so it was like, oh, okay. And right after the show, I went right up to Hoyt. They were like, hey, anytime you want to work FSW, brother, blah, 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 blah. And then we did the thing with Kross and Paulie Cover in the match. And it was Paulie brought in Lance Hoyt. I always remember at the Silverton, there was the big thing. All of a sudden, there was a big thump, and Kevin rolls out. And Paulie comes out like he's this big stud. And everybody's like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden there's like Lance Hoyt. And it was funny because I heard one person yell, holy shit, that's Lance Archer. And I was like, well, at least somebody really liked it. And then it's like, wow, if we did that years later, it would have been like, oh, this is great. But we did. And then we did the stuff which had Will Root in the match when you came back from Japan. You know, a lot of times people ask me if I do one of these or these, like, hey, what's your remembrance of this? Hey, what memory do you have? It's like, I got 100 when it comes to Kevin, because then it was, I tell the Kevin Kross, John Moxley story. So Kevin goes up to me. He's like, hey, I thought I did great. I got Dan Severn to wrestle Karrion Kross at this Natural Born Killer show, because this is something he always wanted to do. I'm like, I think we can do this. UFC's in town. They're having their Hall of Fame. I get Dan Severn. We already know we got Frank Mir. Late Stephen Bonner's there. It was supposed to be Baroni, but he was so out of his mind we couldn't use him. And Kevin comes up to me and he goes, hey, you know, I got somebody for the show. I'm like, okay, who is it? Well, I can't tell you. What do you mean you can't tell me? Just put $500 aside. You're going to be thankful you did, because you would want to pay him way more. And now we're all thinking it's UFC week, and I'm sold that it's like Tito Ortiz or Chuck Liddell, you know. And as I tell the story, the day of the show, I have no idea who the person is going to be. And I'm sitting in the office. My kid comes in, literally with tears in his eyes, and he's like, did you see who it is? And I'm like, Tito? Chuck? He goes, no. It's Moxley. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And then I had to get up and go back there. And before I get to Moxley, his wife's there. It's like, what the fuck? This guy's got John Moxley? It's funny because we squeezed like 280 something people in there. It was sold out no matter what anyway. But if you go to this day, there's 1,000 people who swear they were at that show.
Yeah. Which brings up a good point, Kevin. This Sunday, is there a potential Joe doesn't know that something might happen?
There's always a potential of something. But it's in goodwill. It's in goodwill.
And I think this is the valuable part that a lot of guys don't realize, is that something like that has now become folklore. And even you talk about it, Kevin, just recently on an interview. And it's like, that's the thing. The thing is that a lot of times when people take advantage and don't understand what they're in terms of the environment, they don't realize that this is stuff that you're going to be talking about potentially 10 years, 20 years, 15, years from now. And even here, DLG Live, said, shout out Joe, giving me opportunity on the production aspects of the show. It allowed me to learn a ton, and now it's paying off for me in WWE. And he said, these stories are bringing me back. Holy shit.
Yeah, he was there for all of it too. He was there on and off in the school for a while. And anytime I ever saw him in the school, he was also very helpful in terms of like being able to break down things from like a production standpoint. He was also helping me understand just things that would never really occur to me on like post-production and where to be if you want the best shots, even for the school and in FSW. And he's killing it right now in WWE. He's on the road with me every week. So
yeah, and that's the other thing that you don't know is, thing I learned many, many years ago is that you don't know who your life crosses with, right? And the guy who you might turn your nose up, at class, 15 years from now might be the guy that you're sitting there drinking coffee with in the morning before you go into the arena to, bust some ass. It's just, you never know. And everyone, organically ends up helping each other in some way. And that's kind of the best part of being from a place that if you're around people who want to learn and are hungry, there's nothing better.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Little known fact, when we were talking about his name, I'm the one who told him it should be the K, and it was Kevin Kross. And I brought up something that thankfully we didn't use, but it was like, hey, we could call you Killer Kevin Kross, KKK. Oh, thankfully that one was squashed before anything came out.
I remember telling my late grandfather about that, and he grew up in San Juan, and he was like, Papo, being Puerto Rican, I don't think you'd really fit into those people. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, maybe too many Ks. I go, oh, Pop, thank you. This is why I bring you these things. He's like, maybe if you're a wrestling Blue Demon, good heat. I don't know. Maybe get shot, maybe stabbed. I said, all right, Pop. Let's go the other way.
Oh my God. And again, Kevin, you got lots of stories and stuff. And look at this coming out August 5th this year. Life is Fighting, man. Now I know Joe just recently said to me, he's a little disappointed that he wasn't asked to write the foreword to the book.
I was like, what about me? Foreword.
You're in the book.
Oh, I know that.
But what is it like to sit down and put the pen to paper, per se, and and look back and just go, because listen, brother, we're still young, so I'm hoping there's a second and third volume to the book, right?
Oh yeah.
So was it something that you looked at and you said, you know what, this is the time, this is the part of me I want to share and put out there?
I'm going to tell you something I haven't told anybody publicly about the process of writing this book, because you asked me what it was like. It was legitimately the most painful thing I think I've ever done. Because I said to myself, if I'm going to put something out there, it needs to be real. And right. The world we're living in today with social media and broadcasting a very specific projection of yourself, whether it's for marketing or because somebody's insecure or this is what you want people to see. Like, I knew my friends and family, people I've known my entire life, are going to read this book. Being a performer, when I'm not performing, I want to go in the total farthest opposite of that. I don't want to feel like I'm in a room of people hanging out and I'm still performing. I've seen friends of mine and people I've looked up to that might not be friends of mine in the business. I've seen them, they've lost their minds because they can't turn it off. And it's from living in a profession that involves a little bit of misdirection. And I think they romanticize creating misdirections to people because, you know, sometimes those misdirections can benefit them, and then they start misdirecting their friends and their families, and then now they have to carry this giant construction of this idea that they've shown people around, and it begins to weigh on them and they freak out and go crazy. I've always been very cognitive of that. And when I wrote the book, it's not exactly a book of triumph. It's not like a book that's going to wind you and make you want to jump off a roof, but it's the good and the bad. And the book takes place from my childhood right up to the point of me going back to WWE. And there's a lot of personal stuff in there that I never talked about with anybody, but it's in the book for the purpose of somebody like me or somebody who's going through something like I went through. I'd like to show them what it was like for me to get through to the other side. And you can't write a book, in my opinion, like you're Superman. People don't connect with that. Like, life is a grind, man. And you know, being in WWE and being a bodyguard, I've met multimillionaires and I've met billionaires, and yeah, sure, they're financially secure. They'll never have to worry about making a buck. They don't have to check their bank app on their phone every single day to know if they can get the cup of coffee. We all know what that's like. I never forgot what that was like, but they still have a lot of very unusual psychological challenges that will keep them up at night. Like, doesn't matter what lane of the economy you live through or on, people have stuff that they have to fight through. And I wanted to write about what I had to go through in my life at certain periods. And I wanted to write about my personal growth. And as I was writing it, you know, it's not a lot of, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about my life like that. So when I had to go back and write that authentically, a lot of it was like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm writing this on paper and people are going to read it. You know,
Yeah.
like, there's a purpose to that. And the purpose is like, I want people to feel like they're reading a book about a human being, not like some guy who's trying to make a buck and to control an image. Like, there's nothing about Killer Kross or Karrion Kross in that book. It's about Kevin Kezar. And I want people to know that, like, I was not destined to do anything great. And I hope nobody out there is going to get upset that I'm saying it this way, but like, there were times in my 20s where I was very lost, and I thought by 30 I was going to be dead or in jail. Like, I
Sure.
was very, very, very troubled. And I just tried to fight against that. And I had a lot of self-discovery to work on. And I was very bad at asking for help. So it took a lot longer than it probably should have. But I know that there's going to be a kid or a guy out like me out there, or like a woman or anybody. Like, there's going to be human beings that are going to read this book. And I hope that they get something really good out of it. And I was terrified once the publisher said, "Hey, we love this book. We want to publish it." I was like, oh my God, like, now it's real. Now it's real. It's not
Right.
this thing on a laptop. Like, now it's real. But I don't know, man. Like, I've sent it to test readers and I'm feeling a lot better about it. Um, I'm less nervous about it. There's still a part of me that gets really nervous about people reading it, but I know it's going to be good. Like, I'm not worried
Right.
about like people feeling a certain way about it. It's just, it's far easier to play a character than actually play yourself. Like, I get to
Yeah.
be me in my house alone. Nobody sees that. But that was the purpose of why I wrote it. And I will be writing another. Um, I'm, the next book is going to be very sad. So I'm hoping some things turn a different course, because holy shit, like, it's, uh, not necessarily, you know, with work, but I've lost a lot of people over the last few years, and I'm trying not to make the whole book about that, but that weighs a lot on my mind, and that's
Sure.
something as a man, as an adult, that I have to learn how to process. So I'm hoping I can process that in the process of writing the second book. So
Yeah. Honestly, you know, one of the things I kind of learned myself over the years is that writing is almost a way of therapy without, you know, you're confronting your own self, you
yeah,
know, and sometimes we need that because when we build all that up, those deep emotions, sometimes we don't realize that, you know, why we went through something, or you know, we might have misinterpreted it at the time, and in looking back at it, that's where we discover, this is kind of why that happened in my life. And I think that you nailed it on the head. People are going to read and be able to relate to things, and it might help them in, circumstances that they would have, maybe never thought about something. It triggers something, and I think that's amazing. Scott Hosey does say, though, why does it sound like the book is a lot like your speech at the Cauliflower Alley Club when you got the Future Legends Award?
Oh boy, I don't know what the hell I said, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't remember, but I remember being there and being very grateful. I remember the Click was there too, which was really that was surreal to see. Hunter wasn't there, but I mean,
Yeah.
Sean and X-Pac and Nash and Hall were all there, and I was wow. And then there were legends there, and that was a really, really great experience. I don't know what the hell I said.
That's one of those questions that you bump into Sean. You say, "Hey, Sean, remember being at that thing? Do you remember if I said?"
Oh, he would definitely be like, "Yeah." I immediately called WWE and said, "Don't hire this guy; he's out of his mind." That's what Sean would say.
All right, as we get into kind of wrapping up here, I don't want to keep it too long, Kevin. Joe, let's
it's his day off. He's got nothing to do. When do you fly out?
Tomorrow. I'll be there around 6.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you've been having some conversations with some people, that we've seen, in the far backgrounds, which have been kind of interesting. So, I'm sure that you've got other conversations to be had upcoming here. So, on WWE, and once this whole show is over, getting back to the day job. We've only got about 6 weeks or so until WrestleMania comes home for you. So, it's interesting to see. Obviously, we don't want to give anything away, but it's just, I think the fact that you're coming back for this show now, and then we get to see you again in Mania time. In some form or another. Well, at least in some form or another.
I'm going to pitch it first. Instead of appearing at WrestleMania, I think we should have the WrestleMania watch party at the FSW Arena hosted by Kevin Kross. What do you think? Tell Hunter later when you see him, hey, you're not going to be able to make it. You're going to be hanging out with us.
I'll definitely tell him so he can give me the middle finger.
Yes.
And not even respond to me.
But coming up on Sunday here, look at this: Kenny King, Swerve Strickland. You can't go wrong with this card.
Yes.
Ace Austin, Leo Rush, and John Morrison.
We got to follow that, dear God.
Yeah, Cross and Hammerstone again. Like you said, TJP unfortunately won't be able to make it, but you've got so far Danny Limelight, Ice Williams, WWE ID guy, of course, Greg Sharp, and Frankie Kazarian. Look at this tag match. The Rascals, the Cameron faction, the Unguided coming back together, and the tag champs makeshift chemistry.
Yes. The kids getting a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, man. Brian Cage and Rich Swann, of course, just announced Ricochet will be there.
We got his wedding that week too.
Oh,
we got his wedding that week as well.
They're actually, they're finally tying the knot, huh?
Right. Isn't it like the day before or something?
After, yeah.
Oh, it's the day after?
Pretty much, I think Wednesday, maybe, I think.
Wow.
Well,
that's awesome.
Since he's doing the show for free, I'll see if he wants to get married in the ring.
I'm sure Samantha would love that.
Yeah, Cage did. Maybe that was, but it wasn't Melissa, so maybe that's why it didn't work out, because I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah.
And of course, RVD and Katie Forbes will be there Sunday as well. Oh man. Kevin, again, thinking about just, all the time you've spent in that, in that ring here in Vegas, the fans, the guys that you've met, from crew down to refs, down to the other boys. to Joe, and just everything that Vegas itself has meant for you. Now you get to live in a different part of the country, and you're pursuing that highest level. But what is it that this city gave you, in terms of you being able to come here and just kind of be able to take that dream and make it a reality?
One word: everything. Like, to summarize it, everything. I went to Las Vegas for an entirely different reason. I at the time I was thinking, and like Joe said, I wanted to fight pro, and I was in the pro camps there locally, and the more I did it, the more it actually pushed me to kind of pursue what really made me happy. I feel like in my life I had to go to Las Vegas and proceed in some short-term directions for me to constantly come to the realization that money is money and money will be there. It's not the be all end all of everything. Obviously, there are certain aspects of it that are essential. We can't live in a fairy tale universe and pretend it's not important. But when your needs are met, what are you thinking about after that? And for me, it was pro wrestling, and it was always that way. And I just realized, I was like, I don't need a support system to encourage me to do what I want with my life. I just, as a man, need to get my shit together and commit to something, and that's it. And it started with walking into that school. And I honestly think if I hadn't moved to Vegas and everything didn't happen the way it did, that I probably would not be here in the capacity talking to you guys in so many different ways. So it's very near and dear to me. And while I don't live in Las Vegas anymore, it's still like, I don't know. I feel like you could take the kid out of Vegas, but you can't take the Vegas out of the kid. And I feel like there's a part of Vegas that's still always with me, and it represents commitment. Oddly enough, in the city they call Sin City, I didn't have any of those issues with that place. For me, it was hiking, training, being open 24/7 with great food and great service, and a place, if you were willing to, a place that will teach you things if you're willing to learn. And that's what Las Vegas is personally to me.
Yeah, that's very well said. I think Justin, hey Joe, will cross payday for watch party be a requirement for WrestleMania bonus?
Well, it depends how much we charge and bring in. We got to do that little split. We got to make a little side money, because I'm pretty sure Kevin didn't pay dues a few times. You know what I mean? But I was being such a nice guy. We kind of let him slide.
Justin's asking all the right questions today, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Justin will be there also. Justin and Knox.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
Like I said, people have reached out. We got the cool refs, the old IWF refs, Melissa Santos and Sean T, who's Sammy Callahan's guy from Revolver. He lives out here, so they're gonna be handling the ring announcing duties for the event. So, like I say, it's going to be a reunion of sorts of people who probably haven't seen each other in a long, long time. So
that's true.
And this was brought up earlier. Does Kross shave his head like he used to look for Chris? And a person bid wins gets to shave it. So basically, the question is, if someone bids on you shaving your head, would you do it for Chris?
Hunter would pedigree me on the stairs if I came back to work with my hair missing. I'll give you guys the inside scoop on something. So in December, a charity I was working with, I was interested actually in donating my hair. These kids are sick and they suffer from hair loss, and I was gonna donate my hair. Yeah. There was an idea to do that, but maybe make a story out of it on television. Sure. And so we didn't get to doing the story, but I don't have any sort of piece of vanity hidden to keep my hair and keep growing it. I was literally doing it for the function to grow it as long as possible to give it away to these kids. However, I got to time things properly. I made a generous donation in the meantime, so they didn't feel like, I just dipped on them. But
Right.
yeah, there's absolutely no way I'll be shaving my head at the show. The person sitting here talking to everybody who's listening right now will not be at the show. You will get a certified psychopath. And believe me, I am schizophrenic. I just happen to find an occupation where I can hide among normal fucking people. So you will be getting the full clip lunatic.
Well, yeah, I saw the Twitter post, and a lot of people were thinking, well, Killer Kross was bald, and it was like, well, maybe on Monday Night Raw, he'll be having a discussion with one of the bald superstars, because there's a nice Facebook message that you see the meme that Kevin's adjusted his hairstyle, which I didn't even think about it when I noticed it and I saw the bun. And then when the person put it out, I'm like, man, that is fucking brilliant. So now if we could just get him to go after one of the bald wrestlers to have that conversation, because then what we can also do is take Kevin's hair and then raffle off strands. That's worth more than the shaving of the baldness.
A true entrepreneur, ladies and gentlemen.
So just thinking, just trying to use my head and think.
Uh-huh.
He literally wants to sell like friendship bracelets made of your hair braids, man.
Dear God. They
Big
probably
money.
sell too.
The chief alone will buy 10 of them by himself. Brandy, forget about it. She'll buy the whole lock.
Oh my God. All right. So Joe, you know what? Final message as we're going into this show on Sunday, man.
Man, I'll tell you what, it's crazy. It's like after everything that we've done, it's like, holy shit, we're 3 days away. And this is going to be amazing. It's like the guys who needed rooms are pretty much all done except for your boy Morrison. I got to make sure when he's coming in, because I'm talking with John about maybe doing some comedy stuff, and he's hitting up Ziggler. And we got some places that are looking for WrestleMania watch parties and things like that. Somebody was interested in Rikishi, and of course, he still won't give me the info. Tell him to send it to me. Of course, it's like, cut me out of the deal. I'm the one who made the deal. So, some things never change in this business. But, this show is going to be amazing. We have the meet and greet starts at 3:15. People are going to be around, Be kind, donate. I'm pretty sure Kevin's not going to have a problem taking a picture. You know what I mean? It's like, but everything's going to a good cause. Don't go around like people are saying, hey, how about you get them to sign it for me? Yeah, for $15, you're going to get a poster that's signed by 30 superstars. Like, come on, please. Think about where this is going. Thankfully, a lot of people, CAC, they donated $2,500. They're donating to Chris, as well as I said, the state assemblyman, Steve Yeager. And you guys, the Vegas Bad Boys presents Hammerstone versus Kross one more time, So, Kevin's beating the guy who is beating Hammerstone the most, Evan Daniels. So Kross wants to get that record. So it's going to be a big night, man. You don't know, We're trying to hold back. We're hoping we're going to get some big surprises. And like I said, RBD, we know he won't wrestle, but hey, he might let you take a hit of his blunt for a $50 donation for Chris. You don't know the cool things that you may be able to do with this show. I'm trying to get Paulie to donate so Kevin can give him one last Saito.
I had a talk with Paulie, and I said, hey man, what if we got a fan to donate $50 or something for you to go through a table, but have Kross put you through a table? He's like, I'm 44, man. No.
Trying to get Sally to be there, Remy will be there, his whole stomping crew.
Joe, have you paid LA Knight for the FSW promo?
Yeah, that was one of the greatest things ever. I figured if that ever would even happen, not that I would ever think of it, I would have thought Kevin would be the guy, but LA Knight, brother. I'm always really happy that he did that, because He never did it for Dave Marquez. Just saying.
Tom Crawford just said, I'm 55 and I'll do it. So Tom is willing to go through a door.
Obviously, he didn't listen to the beginning. I told you. He'll take the beating and donate. Gotta love these people. You know, be there early. Doors open at 3:15 for the VIP meet and greet, where there's going to be almost half the audience is going to be there for the meet and greet. That's how much they're excited about being there, mingle with the wrestlers. It's you know, probably the coolest and best FSW show ever. And maybe one of the coolest and best independent wrestling shows ever. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm almost looking forward to it this Sunday more than WrestleMania, Keith says.
Well, the good thing is after our show, he can actually go to the store and buy food to eat.
Right. Yeah.
He told me he spent $625 just for the Hall of Fame ceremony.
Jesus, man. They're not charging you guys, Kross, are they, for showing up?
I'm good, babe.
I was going to say, he could have told me, Keith, Kevin would have got him in for $450.
And this is one of the things that this will be my first independent show to go watch. Card looks incredible. All the love to Chris Bey. Chief says, love you, Joe. Again, just all this love and this, you know, Darren, I'll take a bump for Kevin through a table for a donation.
Of course he would. Don't work for it.
So just, you know, again, a lot of good feels. Again, you know, the main point here that we can't overlook is all of us, anyone who's ever seen Chris in the ring, talked to Chris as a person, and just has the love for Chris Bey.
Funny Bone says hello, by the way, Kevin. He's messaging me about sending a video for the show. So
outstanding. I missed that crazy bastard.
Yeah. Last match was the last match until Jacob fought too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Killed it. Had a really good cage match. Crowd was at a 10 that night. It was awesome.
Yeah. And the promo that night too. The From the Heart.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Is he going or not?
Yeah.
And, you know, and again, like you said, you never know in this business who you're going to look at what Fatu's doing now, you know, talking about the last match you had here. And Joe, again, thanks you for sending back the Mecca Championship after you left. He was afraid he was going to see an Alondra Blaze happen on WWE TV there.
No way. Never.
But you know, again, from the bottom of everyone's hearts, this is all for Chris. And again, if you can make it out to the Silverton, please, you know, make it out again. Like you said, meet and greets start at 3:15.
Yeah, we just added, I believe, 15 second row tickets.
Okay.
Also, because third row's almost sold out too now. So they only had like 5 left, and it's like, well, we can add 30 because the further back you are, there's more room to put chairs, and that room holds 1,000 people. So we're not turning anybody away. I don't care if there's no seats. You know, you can stand and watch.
Yeah. And by the size of the crowd, you'll probably have to stand and watch when you're waiting to get a drink anyway. So, hey, man, you know, GA, if you just can get down there. And again, you know, the money is going to Chris. The whole time we've had the ticker going here, how you can actually do donations for the Beynefit for Bey Fund. So Mecca 10 is going to be something. It's just going to be a massive event for the, you know, ages. Triller TV, again, if you can tune in, if you're not in Vegas, catch it on Triller. And you know, if this is your first time ever seeing FSW, please, you know, check out FSW shows. I'm telling you, some of the best stuff. And Kevin is a huge part of the legacy to this company and to this city. So if you're not familiar and you love Kevin's work just from what you've seen in WWE, please check out FSW, and you're going to see other guys, one day in the same position Kevin's in now. And that's the brilliant thing about what goes on here at Future Stars of Wrestling. So final thoughts, Kevin, before I let you go, man.
I don't know, man. Gratitude comes to mind. Just this whole thing, how it happened, we're turning a tragedy into something positive, and I just think that there's something really powerful to take from that. There's a silver lining in all of this, and just don't take anything for granted, and come out to the show on the 23rd and have a good time, because we're going to show up at our best and give you everything we got, and we're going to do it for Chris.
Couldn't be said any better. All right. Thank you guys again, Kevin. Thank you for joining us today. Joe, again, thank you for getting this together and, giving the fans something to look forward to.
Also, check out Saturday night on the Sports Wrap. They have an interview with Chris Bey that's going to be airing. They went down to the school the other day, and I just messaged them. But I told them they wanted to see if you'd be on the Moore Show tomorrow at 10 a.m. But I'm like, yeah, you'll probably be on a flight. So.
And there you go. Again, thank you everyone who tuned in today. Appreciate you guys tuning in and catching all the stories that Joe has to tell. And hoping to see everyone out there this Sunday at the Silverton. All right, everyone. Till next time. Have a great day. Take care.